Welcome back to the Untouchables podcast. Caden and Leo here. Caden, how you doing today?
I'm doing great today. How about you, Max?
I'm doing all right, Caden, because I'm a little conflicted about this weekend and what went on football-wise. Got a lot of good stuff to talk about, Caden. So let's go ahead and start recapping by bringing up your Patriots.
It's a frustrating game. It's a game that they should have won. This game should have been over in regulation. You get the second. First, you have terrible clock management at the end of the first half. Give up a field goal that shouldn't have been given up to get them to 17 before the half. You only give up 3 points in the second half. You play great defense, but instead of getting a nice field goal to get up 6 instead of 3, Jacoby gets sacked on third down. The field goal from Joey Slye gets blocked. They go down, tied up overtime, where that wasn't DPI. Jonathan Jones said after the game that Tyler Lockett told him it wasn't DPI.
It was not DPI.
Like, that was some BS right there. I mean, the game was already not looking good right there. They're already starting to drive a little bit, but it sealed it. They were in field goal range from there. And, none of that should have... The O-line was another huge problem altogether. There was a step. PFF said on 33 dropbacks, Jacoby Brissett was pressured on 16 of 33 dropbacks. Half of his dropbacks was getting pressured, and you have Vidarian Lau, their left tackle, who's awful. And Mike Onwenu had a bad game today, too, which is not what you want to see to your best offensive lineman on one of the worst O-lines in the league.
I feel like it.
We got the cover, which is good for our sake.
We covered. We did
get the cover. It was a 3.5, lost by 3. We got our cover. But as a Patriots fan, it really stings that they lost because that game should have been a win. We should be 2-0 going into Thursday Night Football against the Jets.
Yeah, Caden, Seahawks were able to come in and steal a victory right underneath your feet, Caden. So can't be feeling good. I guess the only glimpse of slimmer is that, like you said, we cut the cover was made.
Which was that. I'll at least take that, but I would have loved to win.
Into a game, Caden, that we predicted almost perfectly, completely in the Steelers versus Broncos.
Oh,
This was a punt off.
A punt off. Field goals.
Field goals. This was completely smashed the under.
Mm-hmm.
The under was at 36.5, correct?
36.5 under. Completely smashed that under. That was some bad football we watched today. You want to dive into your beautiful Bo Nix?
Watching the offense today, Caden, I would rather watch a lot of other things. That's the simplest way to put it.
No.
Bo Nix once again struggled. Had a lot of open receivers on some deep targets that he simply just overthrew or just undercalculated. And when he did hit receivers, Caden, over the middle of the field, it was another case of the dropsies throughout the wide receiver core. Greg Dulcich
He had
had a
some
couple
bad
horrible drops. And once again, just not helping out your rookie quarterback. I did like what I saw from the run game at times, Caden. There was a few runs and some plays where I'm like, okay, that looked really good. But other than that, not a lot to like. A lot of poor play calling, in my opinion. And I think just in general, this offense hasn't been able to do anything unless it's in garbage time where defenses are playing prevent. So, scratching my head, looking on the Tampa Bay kid, and it's not going to be a good start for the Denver Broncos.
I agree with what you were saying right there. It was just a bad football game offensively for both
Pat
sides.
Surtain got a couple times by George Pickens in that game. He also had a couple penalties, a holding on special teams.
Yep.
So it wasn't a great day for Pat Surtain. Wasn't a great game for Garrett Bowles, who struggled. Cortland Sutton was targeted once, I think, the entire game. And a lot of our best players, Caden, who need to step up in these situations, just didn't really play their best on this game. It's one of those ones you want to flush and just move on.
No, it's bad football. You hope Bo Nix can turn something, try to figure something more out going into Tampa next week. I'm happy. I got my unders. I got the Steelers to cover, so those were both good.
Yes.
But yeah, I wish, though, I would like to see more from Bo Nix, just as a fan of Bo Nix.
Most definitely. And he's going to have the opportunity to do so throughout the remainder of the season, Caden. But moving on to some quarterbacks who've already proven themselves. Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes, a matchup that was hyped up going into this week a lot. We kind of undermined that hype a little bit, Caden.
A little bit. We did.
We did undermine it. We thought Patrick Mahomes and company would be able to keep and cover and keep it out of a close game, which it turned out completely opposite, Caden.
Yeah, we ended up with, your classic Mahomes-Burrow game. one possession tight the entire time, back and forth scores. Burrow being able to drive down the field and actually score touchdowns this week compared to last week against New England. Mahomes didn't look great. It was the second lowest passing yards he's ever had in a game.
152 passing yards. Good. Poor outing.
It was a poor outing from him. You're lucky you have probably the best kicker in the NFL on your team.
You're lucky you
who's able to drain all these 50-plus yarders.
The officiating help with the Kansas City Chiefs receive on a weekly basis.
It was DPI. Like, when you watch the play, it was DPI. It's tough that it happens again in that same situation.
It always happens.
And I hate when it happens for the Chiefs.
Always.
But look at the replay. It was DPI. And it sucks that it ended that way, but...
Let him play, I think, when it comes down to plays like that, Caden. You got to let him play football. Let him play football. It is what it is. Joe Burrow, although they lost, he did, in fact, cover.
Joe Burrow led the Bengals to a cover, and the Chiefs are now 2-0 on the season after a last-second field goal by Harrison Butker.
Speaking of leading teams to a cover, Caden, again, our only other miss, Sunday Night Football, Caleb Williams and the Bears. Bears defense does just enough to
Bears
help
defense
squeeze
played
out a
good.
cover.
Bears defense played well, holding that Texans offense to only 19 points.
We said we thought C.J. Stroud would be able to air it out, and there were times where the Texans offense really clicked and they were able to drive down the field, but then there was times where that Bears defense put pressure on C.J. Stroud and really just made him uncomfortable in the pocket.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. He hit those couple deep bombs to Nico Collins every now and then that was able to lead to those touchdown drives. Then, yeah, for much of the rest of the game, he was getting pressured. They weren't able to run the ball too much, especially after Mixon left with injury.
Yes.
He even wasn't able to run the ball well. They stopped the run, and Stroud, except for those couple deep shots, Nico Collins was getting pressure all night, wasn't able to, like, dink and dunk as much as he needed to.
And Bears offense, once again, disastrous. Although Caleb Williams was able to lead the team for their first touchdown drive of the season.
Yeah, they got a touchdown. It still was not good for this offense.
Still not good. Once again, garbage time. We're able to move the ball down the field slightly.
Yeah.
It's garbage time. It is what it is. It's a loss in the Bears' record, Caden.
Yep.
And they did put on a show, though. Their defense, I would say.
Their
Kudos to the Bears' defense.
Their defense is good.
Of course.
They have a...
And
it seems like they have a legit defense. Exactly.
Their defense will keep the games close throughout the year.
If
the offense could literally generate anything.
Yeah,
I
to
think
generate a
the Bears
little bit
will
of
be
points.
all right.
Exactly.
Well, Caden, I think that's all we had to talk about tonight is the Monday Night Football matchup, of course, between the Eagles and the Falcons. We've already touched on that in the last podcast, so if you want to hear our thoughts on that game, go listen to the playback from that one on Saturday. But college football weekend, Caden, tell us about some of the games.
Yes, we have. Big weekend in college football. Starting off, we had talked about the Boston College-Missouri game.
Yes.
How that spread was at 14.5, and you and me both thought that was too much for Boston College team that had looked great under this new Bill O'Brien system. And at the start of the game, it looked like that. Boston College was out scoring, stopping Missouri.
Yeah.
Score more. They looked good. Then Missouri started looking like, why they're a top 10 team in the country. Luther Burden was making plays. They were able to drive down the field, score their touchdowns. Second half looked a little scary at the start because Tommy Castellanos was starting to make some of those plays that we saw towards the start of last year. Just not smart.
Not smart, yep.
Making just plays we don't really want to see. But in the end, they only ended up losing by 6 to the number 6 team in the country. And we're able to get the cover by a good bit.
Huge cover by Boston College, Caden. Kind of what we expected. Again, Coach O'Brien having his team ready to play. They came and kind of punched Missouri in the mouth. Missouri was able to regroup and ultimately come away with the victory. Solid college football game, Caden.
Yeah, but then in the afternoon, say our largest miss of the weekend.
Oh.
Oregon State. We thought rivalry game. I thought it would be a low scoring game as well.
You said that, yeah.
So not only did Oregon blow them out, putting up 49 points, which is more than the over-under was set at by itself. They just absolutely blew the doors off Oregon State, able to cover easily. Their offense looked like what we thought the Oregon offense would look like at the start of the year. They didn't look like this empty stat, no touchdown leading drive Oregon offense we've been seeing from the first 2 weeks of the season.
Definitely, Ken. I'm glad you brought that up. Oregon, definitely a confidence booster as well, getting the rivalry win. being able to come out with the W. Another team kind of did something similar this past weekend, Caden. I don't know if you heard, Rocky Mountain Showdown was played. Colorado Buffaloes dominant on the road in Fort Collins, in Canvas Stadium. Silenced the Colorado State crowd pretty much after about midway through the second quarter.
Yeah, the game started off a little rocky for CU. They weren't able to get too much things going.
Again, starting slow like they have in the past 2 games.
Yeah, like you said, midway through the second quarter, it was controlled by CU. They owned the rest of that game.
Yes, Caden. And it was kind of like how we discussed. CU's big stars. Travis Hunter played a phenomenal game. LeJontay Wester was able to really have his breakout game that Shador's been trying to target him these last 2 weeks. He had a big game, scoring a couple touchdowns. And ultimately, it was just a gritty, nice, fought-out win for the Colorado Buffaloes.
Yeah, we said we thought CU was going to be able to come in here against a really bad CSU team. A really bad CSU team, and be able to blow the doors off them. And they did. They were able to handle their business, be able to beat a far inferior opponent.
Once again, Caden, we talked. Little brother was put in their place. Colorado Rams fans, a lot of talk. Of course, we saw what Torrey Holton and Braden Fowler Nicolosi had to say during the offseason, coming into the season about Colorado. And after the game, of course, I don't know if you saw, Braden Fowler was a little upset when Shador confronted him about his comments.
I saw this tweet that sums it up perfect. It's like, yeah, everyone cries. It says that all the quarterbacks say are too nice, and everyone in the league's all buddy and friends. But the second somebody does this, oh no, he went too far. It's like, you can't have it
both ways.
Yeah, choose. Like, I think what he did was, sure, you do that and probably shake his hand, I'd say. Like, just out of respect to your opponent, but I don't really care.
Yeah,
I don't get why people are really getting angry by it.
And it's like, Shador didn't even get an opportunity. He was literally just talking to the guy, and Braden got mad and walked away. Yeah. So it's not like Shador didn't even get a finish carrying out, because Braden, salty after the loss, of course, just stormed off the field. I had a good view for that one on Saturday night. And Caden, the other game we talked about this weekend, Texas absolutely dominant against the Roadrunners, and Arch Manning, Caden, looked pretty impressive with his playing time.
Yeah, Quinn went down pretty early in this game. Steve Sarkisian saying that it's a week-to-week injury, that he'll probably miss this upcoming week's game against Louisiana Monroe. So, yeah, Arch Manning comes in and looks great. He looks like once Quinn leaves after this year, Texas will maintain a top team in this country, a top program. He looks like a really good quarterback. He's a dual-threat quarterback. You can see in the way he runs. He reached a top speed of over 20 miles an hour on Saturday. He's able to sling the ball down the field. He looked good. I know it's a far inferior opponent in UTSA. Still, you got to perform, and he looked the part.
Do you know who else thought Texas looked the part on Saturday, Caden? The AP polls coming out, Texas.
And with Georgia, little scare
against
in Lexington.
Yes.
About that game, though, I got to mention, what is their coach doing? Did you see this? It's 4th and 8 from their own 50 with 3 minutes left. They're down by 1 point to the number 1 team in the country. And their coach decides to punt them the ball. He punted them the ball.
I hated that decision, Caden. Hated that decision.
But hey, Texas is new number 1 in the country. I'll take that. First time since October of 2008.
Texas is number 1, Caden. I have to say, up to this point, they have been looking like that number 1 team. Speaking of number 1, the number 1 bantamweight contender in the UFC, Merab Dvalishvili, successfully captures the bantamweight. Round of applause.
Yes, Merab!
Successfully captures the bantamweight title, ragdolling Sean O'Malley for 5 rounds. Caden, what'd you think of the fight?
Well, we know this pod does not support Sean O'Malley. Go Jay Perrin. Saw you got the win the other night. Congrats on that.
Congrats, of course.
So yeah, Merab came out there and looked like the better fighter. He came out there, was able to wrestle whenever he would, take him down when he wanted, and just maintain that top control. Was able to get him in a couple different positions. They thought maybe nothing really too significant, but he had controlled the entire fight and was able to end up winning.
Yeah, on the feet, Caden, Merab's striking was okay.
It wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad. left a little to be
Yeah,
desired.
exactly,
But he did a good job about not getting hit with Sugar's power shots.
Exactly.
And even when he did get hit, Merab's chin held up.
It held up
Never
well.
got cracked. And after about the second and third round, you could really see it on Sugar's face.
Oh, he was wearing down quick.
And he was tired. And Merab just smothering him, knees to the body, picking him up, dumping him, letting him
Kissing
back
him
up
in the
again,
back.
kissing him in the back. It was definitely the fight that when we talked about this a few months ago, Caden, when we brought this up, it was definitely a fight that how we predicted this would go if Merab was going to win.
If Merab was going to win, exactly. We thought you'd have to take Sean down, not get caught by the power punches, and be able to win it through the ground. And that's what he did. He exhausted Sean, was just able to take him down.
Exactly what he did, Caden. UFC Noche. It was a fantastic night.
That was awesome.
Dana White did a fantastic job.
Amazing.
For Mexican Independence Day, kicking off Hispanic Heritage Month, Caden. I loved it all.
It was an amazing card. Yeah, Dana did an awesome job with this field.
Event was definitely longer, but of course we had the storylines and stuff. Something we didn't touch on before Saturday, but I think we wanted to bring that back in. Valentina Shevchenko won a decision fight, winning her title back from Alexa Grasso. Caden, anything you wanted to mention from that fight?
I just want to say I had Shevchenko. I had her money line. She came out, and I mean, it was kind of like the Merab fight. She took her down, basically kind of just maintained top control.
Yeah.
Won her decision.
Again, two very, very similar fights. I know there was some gripe about the quality of the main co-main event. Grow up.
They were still pretty good. Like, it's not like they were bad fights.
Yes. If you don't like wrestling, go watch boxing.
Exactly.
Go watch
boxing.
Go watch 1-2 clips.
Yeah.
Which we'll also mention, shout out Saul Canelo Alvarez got the victory this Saturday. Didn't expect anything else but that, Caden, on Mexican Independence Day weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I don't watch much boxing, but I'm like, come on, it's Canelo.
It's Canelo. I think that's all we have to talk about. We look forward to seeing you guys again later in the week when we talk about our predictions. And it was once again another fantastic weekend of football, Caden.
Yes, it was. It was a great weekend of football.
Well, we thank you all for listening, and we'll see you all next time.